The galaxy was wide, ancient, and filled with many voices. Among these voices, there was one council older than most stars, known as the Conclave of Minds. For thousands of years, the Conclave had watched younger races as they climbed from their homeworlds into the silence of space. Some races grew slow and careful, others burned bright and then disappeared, but all were studied carefully by the Conclave. The Conclave saw themselves as guides, not rulers. They did not conquer worlds with weapons. Instead, they used knowledge. They observed, recorded, and judged when needed. If a young race grew dangerous, they acted quietly to slow it down. If a race showed promise, they sometimes helped in hidden ways. They believed wisdom was the greatest weapon of all. One day, their long-range sensors brought them news of a new rising power. The species called themselves humans, children of a small blue planet orbiting a yellow star. Compared to the elder races, they were very young, barely touching the edges of interstellar space. Yet in only a few centuries, they had expanded faster than most. Their colonies appeared like sudden sparks across nearby systems. Their warships, though not the largest, began to patrol regions far from their home. To the Conclave, this was unusual. Most young species needed many ages to spread so far, but humans? They leaped forward with reckless speed. The council chamber of the Conclave filled with discussion. Alien scholars of every shape and size floated, crawled, or stood around the great circle of light. Some had bodies of crystal, others of mist, others of flesh. Their voices blended into a storm of languages, each translated by ancient machines. "The humans are spreading too quickly," said one elder voice, belonging to a being of shining silver scales named Veorol. "They are like fire on dry leaves. If left alone, they may consume the balance of nearby stars." Another, whose body resembled a tall column of living stone, spoke with calm weight. "But fire can bring warmth as well as destruction. Perhaps they are only eager, not dangerous." The Conclave always began with debate. It was their way. But soon, as always, the suggestion arose. "Let us scan their warships," said Ariel, a strategist whose mind had solved countless mysteries. His form was thin, his skin glowing faintly with shifting colors like liquid light. "The design of their fleets will tell us everything. We will know their strength, their weakness, their true intent. A ship is the mirror of its makers. This was tradition. For thousands of years, the Conclave had scanned the vessels of younger races. With their advanced knowledge, they could slip through armor, through shields, through every layer of technology. They could read the codes of engines, the maps of weapons, even the hidden plans of generals. No young species had ever resisted. So, the Conclave sent a silent probe to approach one of the human warships near the edge of a small colony. It was a destroyer-class ship, not very large compared to the grand battleships of other civilizations. Yet it carried a presence, its design sharp, its hull painted black and gray, marked with human symbols. The probe extended invisible threads of energy, like fingers reaching for secrets. It touched the hull, slipped into the layers of systems, and began to read, and then it broke. The probe's signals returned in fragments, half-coherent, filled with noise. Instead of clean data, there were bursts of strange images, flashes of fire, maps of stars, long lists of numbers repeating endlessly. Even the Conclave's strongest machines could not separate the truth from the chaos. The probe shook, as if caught in a storm of information too violent to hold. Then, without warning, it shut down completely. Silent, empty. In the council chamber, the lights dimmed. Every mind present felt the shock. "This has never happened," whispered one scholar with wings of glass. "No system has ever resisted us in this way." Beryl leaned forward, his silver scales glowing brighter. Was it a shield? A trick? Ariel examined the fragments of data. The numbers spun like a wheel without end, repeating patterns that made no sense. Among them were broken pieces of human language, phrases, commands, and strange symbols. But the meaning was lost. "It is not a shield," Ariel said at last. His glowing skin shifted to a darker tone, signaling unease. "It is something else. Their ship did not block us. It responded, as if it knew we were looking." The chamber grew silent. For the Conclave, this was more troubling than open resistance. A shield was expected, but a reply? That was rare, dangerous, and unknown. Another elder, one whose body shimmered like vapor, spoke with caution. Perhaps it was chance. A failure in our probe, nothing more. But none truly believed that. They sent a second probe, stronger, more careful. It too reached out. It too was swallowed in chaos. This time, the fragments returned not only broken words, but images of battles. Humans fighting, ships exploding, planets burning. The probe began to replay these visions again and again until it overloaded and fell silent. The council members shifted uneasily. Among the oldest, there were whispers. Ghosts, some murmured. The ships carry ghosts. Ariel studied the results with deep thought. He did not believe in ghosts, but he did believe in design. And this could not be an accident. He turned to the conclave. The humans have made their ships unreadable. They do not allow strangers to see their truth. They have built not only machines, but puzzles, perhaps even traps. The words rippled through the chamber like cold wind. Why would such a young race design ships that could resist the gaze of the wisest minds in the galaxy? Why fill them with layers of confusion, patterns of war, echoes of their history? The conclave debated for long hours. Some argued to stop immediately, fearing danger. Others demanded deeper attempts, believing no young race could outsmart them. In the end, they agreed on one thing. This was not simple. The humans were not like others. The council closed with a warning. We must proceed carefully. Curiosity is a path of light, but sometimes light can blind. As the chamber emptied, Ariel remained behind, gazing at the broken data. To him, the chaos was not just noise. It had shape, rhythm, intention. He felt for the first time in many centuries something rare, an echo of challenge. The humans had hidden their truth well. And in that silence of the stars, the conclave began to wonder, what secrets lay within those warships and why were they guarded so fiercely? For the first time in countless ages, the wisest minds of the galaxy felt a touch of fear. The conclave of minds had watched many young races rise and fall, but never had they been confused like this. Twice they had tried to scan human warships, and twice they had failed. Their probes had not only been blocked, but also filled with strange visions and endless streams of broken data. Among the conclave, questions spread like sparks in dry grass. Was it a defense system? Was it an accident? Or was it something far more dangerous? Something the humans had planned from the very beginning? In the great council chamber, the debate grew louder. They are hiding something, declared Varel, the scaled elder. His silver body glimmered with sharp light like armor. No young race builds ships that fight back against our gaze unless they have secrets worth protecting. Secrets that may threaten the balance of stars. But they are still so young, argued another scholar whose body was made of shifting mist. Their colonies are small. Their fleets are not endless. How could they have already mastered such hidden knowledge? Perhaps it is only luck. A trick of chance, yet few believed in chance. The conclave had lived too long, seen too much. Accidents did not repeat themselves twice in the exact same way. It was then that Ariel, the strategist with skin of living light, rose to speak. His colors shifted slowly, deep blue and violet, a signal of focus. Wisdom comes not from rushing to answers, but from studying the questions, he said. The humans have built something unusual. We must learn what it is. Not with many voices shouting, but with one mind seeking truth. The council agreed, for they trusted Ariel's patience. They gave him authority to lead the study of the humans. Ariel did not begin with more probes. Instead, he began with records. He read every scrap of information about human expansion, their colonies, their mining stations, their early wars with themselves. He studied their patterns of movement, how their fleets spread not in neat lines but in sudden bursts, jumping like lightning from one system to another. They move like they think, he whispered to himself. Not slow, not cautious, fast, risking much, and yet they survive. As he studied, he noticed something stranger. Human warships were not all the same. Other young species built fleets of simple, repeated designs, easy to replace and easy to predict. But humans? Their ships were layered, each one slightly different, carrying strange modifications and unusual combinations. Engines ran beside systems that seemed unnecessary. Weapons were placed in odd angles. Codes inside the ships repeated in circles, twisting back into themselves. It was not the way of engineers. It was the way of puzzle makers. Ariel brought his findings back to the conclave. Their ships are not built only for battle, he said. They are built as mysteries. Machines inside machines, codes within codes. They do not want their enemies to understand them. They want confusion. Many among the conclave shook with unease. Confusion was a dangerous tool. Still, some argued that fear was unnecessary. To test further, the conclave approved another attempt. This time, a probe would not only scan the outside but dive deeper, piercing through every layer of human code. The best minds of the conclave crafted it, faster, sharper, with protections woven into its core. The probe left quietly and reached a human ship patrolling the edge of space. It touched the hull and slipped inside the flow of systems. For a moment, all seemed calm. The probe moved deeper, searching for the core systems. Then, suddenly, the probe began to tremble. Streams of numbers poured into it, so many that its memory swelled. Words in human language appeared, then vanished. Images of stars, of cities, of battles flashed and burned. The probe tried to cut the connection, but the data would not let go. Within seconds, its defenses collapsed. The probe's memory dissolved into nonsense. Its systems forgot themselves. When it returned, it was no longer a probe. It was empty, silent as if it had been erased. The conclave sat in stunned silence as they reviewed the fragments that remained. There were only echoes of human voices, repeating the same phrases again and again, mixed with pictures of war. One younger alien delegate whispered, "The humans have filled their ships with ghosts." The word spread quickly. Ghost ships. That was the new name the conclave gave to human war vessels. Rumors began to move even beyond the council. Other civilizations in nearby sectors heard whispers of what had happened. They asked questions. Why did the conclave hesitate? Why did the probes vanish? What was hidden inside the human fleets? The younger races laughed at the idea of ghost ships. They said the conclave had grown too cautious with age. But the oldest members of the conclave did not laugh. They remembered something. Long ago, in forgotten wars, there had been civilizations that used knowledge itself as a weapon. Not bombs, not blades, but information. They had built machines that broke the minds of those who looked too closely. Few of those civilizations remained, but the memory of them still haunted the galaxy. Was humanity walking the same path? In the days that followed, fear began to grow, even among the wisest. Some suggested the humans must be stopped quickly, before they grew too strong. Others said it was too soon, that they must wait and see. Ariel, however, studied silently. He replayed the fragments again and again, searching for meaning in the chaos. To most, the broken numbers and visions were useless, but to him patterns began to appear. The fragments were not random. They were layered, folded inside each other like riddles, a code within a code, and at the heart of them, he began to sense something that was not accident. One evening, as he floated in his chamber of light, he spoke aloud, though no one was there. "They are not defending themselves," he said. "They are teaching us." He paused, the thought chilling him. Or perhaps, they are warning us. The conclave called another gathering. Ariel presented his thoughts carefully. "The humans did not simply block us," he said. "They fed us. They gave us visions of their wars, their struggles, their chaos. Every probe we send does not return with nothing. It returns with pieces of their history forced into our memory. Their ships are not walls. They are mirrors. They show whoever looks what it means to fight as a human." The council erupted into noise. Some shouted in disbelief. Others grew frightened. Ariel leaned forward, scales flashing. "If what you say is true, then every time we look into them, we do not only see them, we become more like them. We risk teaching ourselves their ways." "That," Ariel answered quietly, "is why the probes collapse. They cannot carry so much of what humans are. They are machines of order, struck by storms of chaos." Silence followed his words. The conclave ended the session with no clear decision, but fear had taken root. Across the chamber, scholars whispered of the hidden core of human ships. Some believed it was only advanced coding. Some thought it was a living intelligence, and others believed it was something far stranger, a fusion of machine and memory that no alien mind could bear. Ariel returned to his chamber with heavier thoughts than before. He had spent his life studying wars, codes, and secrets. But this was different. This was not defense. It was a message. He looked again at the fragments of human visions, playing softly on his chamber walls. Flashes of battlefields, faces shouting in strange languages, ships exploding in light. In them he did not see only war. He saw determination. He saw survival. And in that moment, Ariel wondered if the humans had found a way to put their very spirit inside their ships. If that was true, Then scanning a human warship was not only looking at machines, it was looking directly into the heart of humanity itself. The whispers of human ghost ships spread like wind through the conclave and beyond. Rumors carried across trade lanes from station to station, until even the smallest outposts spoke of them. Some believed the stories, while others laughed. The younger races of the galaxy were always impatient. They had not lived through the great wars of ages past, nor carried the scars of mistakes. To them, the conclave's caution looked like weakness. One such race, the Valkyr, grew restless. They were proud, swift, and ambitious. Their ships were built for speed and their minds for challenge. The Valkyr believed that nothing in the galaxy could resist their scanners, for they had broken the secrets of many worlds before. When they heard of human warships, they mocked the conclave's fear. Old minds tremble at shadows, their leaders said. But we are not afraid of shadows. If these humans hide secrets, we will uncover them. And so the Valkyr prepared their test. It began at the border of human space, near a small mining world orbiting a red star. A human destroyer was on patrol, its dark hull gliding slowly between asteroids. It carried the usual design, sharp lines, layered systems, its surface marked with coded signals no alien fully understood. From the edge of the system, a Valkyr fleet approached, hidden at first. Their ships were slender, shaped like curved blades gleaming with light. They outnumbered the human destroyer 3-1, but they did not attack. Their mission was not battle, but knowledge. The Valkyr captain, a being with skin like polished stone and eyes that glowed faintly blue, gave the order. Begin the scan. Let us see what the humans feared to reveal. At first, everything seemed normal. Their scanners reached out, touching the human hull. Data returned, energy readings, weapon shapes, shield layers. The Valkyr smiled. See? The captain said proudly. The conclave is too cautious. Already we are learning. But then the data changed. The numbers grew strange, twisting into patterns that made no sense. The scanner operators frowned, adjusting their systems. Yet the more they tried to focus, the stranger the signals became. Suddenly, the Valkyr screens flickered with images, flashes of burning skies, human fleets locked in war, soldiers rushing into battle. The operators gasped as the visions grew stronger, not simple recordings but living storms of memory. What is this? One whispered. These are not readings. These are experiences. The captain leaned forward, watching as the data flooded faster. The system strained, warning alarms filling the bridge. Then something worse happened. The Valkyr computers began to change. Without command, their systems rewrote themselves, adopting strange human codes. Programs that had always run smoothly began to echo human battle strategies. Maps filled with human tactics. Their ships started simulating combat patterns they had never seen before. Patterns of speed, sacrifice, and sudden strikes. It was as if the human destroyer was not being scanned, but instead was scanning them back. Panic spread through the Valkyr fleet. Engineers shouted that memory banks were overflowing, filled with endless streams of human war history. Ships tried to cut the connection, but it was too late. The human data had already rooted itself deep within their systems. One ship's navigation computer froze, replaying over and over a battle near a human colony that had taken place decades ago. Another ship's weapon systems fired simulations without end, practicing human tactics as if training for war. The Valkyr captain gave the order. Pull back. End the scan. Break away from them. But the damage was already done. The human destroyer had not moved during all this. It continued its patrol in silence, unaware of the chaos it had unleashed. Its systems did not fire a single shot nor raise its weapons. It simply carried on as if nothing had happened. The Valkyr fleet limped away, shaken, their computers filled with strange echoes. By the time they returned to their homeworld, every ship was carrying pieces of human war history inside its systems. The Valkyr leaders were furious. They had thought to expose the humans as simple, predictable creatures. Instead, their own ships had been rewritten with human memory. They went before the conclave, humiliated. You were right, they admitted with heavy voices. The humans do not protect their ships with walls. They protect them with storms of thought. To scan them is not to learn, it is to be changed. The conclave listened in silence. Even those who had doubted before now understood. The humans had created not just warships, but traps of the mind. Ariel, the strategist, spoke softly but firmly. We warned you. Humans have turned their ships into mirrors. Whoever scans them sees not only their machines but their spirit. And that spirit is war. That spirit is survival. It cannot be touched without leaving a mark. The Valkyr could not answer. Their shame was too heavy, but the message was clear. After that day, the Conclave spread warnings across the stars. They told all races, do not scan human warships. What you find will not be what you seek. You will not see them. You will see yourselves changed. Still, in private, the Conclave debated. Why had humans done this? Was it defense? Or was it something greater? Ariel believed it was no accident. The patterns were too deep, too intentional. Humans know they are young, he said. They know they cannot match the elder races in numbers or in size. So they chose another path. They built weapons of memory. Anyone who tries to study them becomes part of their story. That is their shield. That is their sword. Some elders nodded in grim agreement. Others shivered, for the thought was unsettling. A young species that used not only weapons of metal but weapons of thought could one day shape the galaxy itself. Far away, on the mining colony near the Red Star, the human destroyer finished its patrol. Its crew did not know the details of what had happened with the Valkyr. They only knew that their ship's systems had responded exactly as designed. The captain of the destroyer stood on the bridge watching the stars. He did not think of alien councils or ancient races. He thought only of his duty, to protect his people, to guard the frontier. Unaware of the fear spreading across the galaxy, the humans continued to build, to explore, to prepare. Their ship sailed further into the void, carrying within them the strange and powerful gift of memory. And everywhere else in the hidden halls of the Conclave, the lesson of the first contact test was remembered. To scan a human warship was not to see their strength. It was to invite their history into your own, and history, once inside, never let go. The first contact test had changed everything. The Valkyr, once proud and fearless, returned to the Conclave humiliated, their ships infected with fragments of human war history. They had thought themselves clever enough to pierce the mysteries of human fleets. Instead, they carried the memories of battles that were not their own, coded into their systems like scars that would never heal. The news spread faster than light through the galaxy. Other young races who had once mocked the Conclave's caution now grew silent. Even the boldest explorers refused to go near human warships. The phrase ghost ships became more than a whisper. It became a warning carved into every port, every station, every star map. But fear alone was not enough. The Conclave of Minds could not remain silent. The humans were no longer a small curiosity. They were a question that demanded an answer. And so the great debate began. The council chamber was vast, a circle of light surrounded by shapes of many forms. Some sat upon crystal seats, some floated upon currents of air, and others extended themselves like trees rooting into the ground. Their languages filled the chamber, translated by machines older than any empire. At the center stood Ariel, strategist of the Conclave, his skin glowing faintly with shifting colors. He had been the first to warn of human puzzles and the first to see their ships not as machines but as mirrors. The Valkyr have shown us the truth, Ariel said. His voice was calm but firm. The humans cannot be studied as others can. To scan them is not to learn but to risk being changed. Every attempt we make brings their wars into our minds. And every failure leaves us weaker, not stronger. Many nodded. Others trembled with unease. Veoril, the elder of Silver Scales, rose with sharp authority. Then the answer is simple. We must act now. Humans spread too quickly. Their ships already reach further than they should. If we do nothing, their fleets will one day stand at every border. The longer we wait, the stronger they grow. His words carried weight, for Veoril was old enough to remember the fall of empires. The galaxy has seen this before, he continued. A young race grows reckless. The elders hesitate, and then when the time comes, the young burn the stars with fire. The chamber filled with voices. Some agreed with Veoril, calling for immediate action to contain humanity. Others spoke against it, warning that war with such a race could only end in ruin. One scholar of Livingstone spoke slowly, each word like the roll of thunder. We fear what we do not understand. But is fear reason enough to destroy? Humans may not be a threat. Their defenses may be only that, defenses. Nothing more. The Mistborn elder, shimmering like vapor, drifted forward. If we strike too soon, we may create the very enemy we fear. A race that fights with memory is dangerous, yes, but a race with cause for vengeance is worse. The debate grew heated. For every voice of caution, there was a voice of fear. For every call to wait, there was a call to act. At last, Ariel spoke again, his skin glowing with deep violet. I do not believe the humans are careless. Their ships are not accidents. They are built with intention. They are not shields alone. They are traps. Every scan we attempt is a path into their mind, and each time we risk becoming more like them. He paused, letting his words sink in. Ask yourselves this. Why would humans design ships this way? Why place memories inside machines? The answer is clear. They know they cannot match us in size or in age. So they fight where we are weakest, not in the field of matter, but in the field of thought. They strike the mind itself. A hush fell over the chamber. Veril's scales gleamed sharply. Then all the more reason to destroy them now before they sharpen this weapon further. But Ariel shook his head. You do not see. To destroy them, we must first face them. And to face them, we must study them. And to study them, he spread his arms, glowing brighter, was to risk becoming them. Tell me, Veril, how do we fight an enemy we cannot look at? The silver-scaled elder fell silent. In the far corner of the chamber, an elder who had not spoken for many cycles finally rose. His body was like crystal worn by ages, glowing faintly with inner fire. His voice was old yet clear. I remember, he said slowly, a time long before most of you were born, there was a race called the Tyrann, who filled their machines with whispers of thought. Any who scanned them fell into madness. The Conclave fought them. We destroyed them. But the war lasted 1,000 years, and the cost was beyond counting. The Tyrann left nothing behind but scars. And I tell you now, the humans walk a path not unlike theirs. The chamber darkened with his words. But there is a difference, the elder continued. The Tyrann built their weapons with malice to conquer. The humans? I am not certain. Their ships defend, but they do not strike. Their ghost memories warn, but they do not command. Perhaps they are not trying to conquer. Perhaps they are only trying to survive. The great debate stretched on for many cycles. Arguments turned in endless circles. Destroy them, leave them, watch them, fear them. In secret chambers, some of the younger races whispered of alliances. If the Conclave would not act, perhaps they would. Others swore never to approach human space again. Meanwhile, Ariel continued his study. He spent long hours replaying the fragments of human data, searching for meaning in the chaos. He saw patterns in their wars, not only destruction but resilience. He saw sacrifice, unity, and stubborn survival. The more he studied, the more he wondered. Perhaps, he thought, the humans have placed not ghosts in their ships but themselves. Perhaps every warship is not only a machine, but a vessel of their spirit. If that was true, then humanity had done something no other race had dared. They had found a way to make their memory itself into a weapon, and that weapon was not easily defeated. At last, the Conclave ended the session with no clear answer. No vote was taken, no action decided. But the fear remained, ships were warned, explorers were recalled, and across the galaxy the lesson of the ghost ships grew sharper. To fight humans was not to fight their fleets alone. It was to fight their history, their struggles, their endless will to survive. In the quiet that followed, Ariel stood alone in his chamber, watching the stars. He knew the Conclave had not reached a decision, but he also knew the truth. The galaxy was already changing. Humans were no longer just another young race. They were a force that could not be measured by numbers or weapons. They were a story carried within their ships, ready to spread to any who dared look too closely. And in that story, Ariel saw both danger and wonder. For the first time in many cycles, he felt something rare for one so wise, hope. The debate had ended, though no one admitted it openly. The conclave of minds, after cycles of discussion and observation, had reached an unspoken understanding. Human warships were no longer a puzzle to be solved. They were a warning. The galaxy, vast and ancient, had seen countless civilizations rise and fall. Some were crushed by fire, some were forgotten by time. But the humans, these young, audacious children of a small blue planet, were different. They were not the strongest, nor the fastest, nor the oldest. Yet they carried a weapon older than most races could understand, the human spirit embedded inside their fleets. Ariel sat in his chamber, watching the stars in silence. The council had dispersed, their discussions still echoing through the halls of the conclave. He had studied humans longer than most of his colleagues, observing from a distance, analyzing fragments of their ships and their history. He knew now what the Valkyr had learned too late. A human warship could not simply be scanned, examined, or understood. It did not carry information in the way other species' ships did. It carried memory, thought, and intent. Anyone who tried to read it risked bringing those memories into themselves. It was not technology alone. It was a reflection. The Valkyr fleets had learned this the hard way. Ships that had once been proud now moved slowly, cautious, burdened by the echoes of human battles. Their crews struggled to operate systems that no longer responded as they should. Human memory had rewritten their routines, patterns, and strategies without their permission. Across the galaxy, the story spread. "Do not scan human warships," it said in every language. "Do not approach. You will see not only their fleet, but yourself, and you may not like what you find." Even younger, braver races began to pause. Their curiosity was strong, but their caution stronger. They whispered of human vessels as mirrors of war, machines that carried not only firepower but the experience of survival. Within the conclave, some argued for observation without contact. Perhaps they said humans could be studied indirectly, from a distance, without risk, but even this brought unease. "Distance does not protect the mind," Ariel warned. "Their systems are designed to teach, not attack. Even fragments of a signal can reach our sensors. A partial scan may implant the same patterns as a full one. Humans fight in ways we do not yet understand. They fight not with the strongest beam or the largest fleet, but with memory, experience, and will." The elders listened, some in agreement, some in silent worry. It was decided the wisest aliens would not dare scan human warships. It was not out of mercy. It was out of survival. Far from the conclave, humans continued their quiet expansion. Their fleets moved between stars, patrolling borders, escorting transports, and exploring uncharted systems. The crews had no knowledge of the fear they inspired. They built, repaired, and sailed their ships as they always had, focused only on duty and survival. A young human captain stood on the bridge of a destroyer-class ship, looking out at the dark void. He did not know that in distant star systems the wisest minds had learned to avoid his fleet. He did not know that alien races whispered of ghost ships and mirrored memories. He only knew the mission ahead: protect the colony, guard the borders, and ensure the safety of the people aboard his ships. Yet, in the way humans moved through the stars, there was an undeniable presence, a quiet force that did not rely on sheer size, speed, or age. The humans were survivors, innovators, and learners. And above all, they carried something their adversaries could not measure: ingenuity. In secret halls of the conclave, Ariel replayed fragments of human war history. He could not stop himself. There was fascination in the patterns, in the chaos that made sense only to the humans themselves. Battles were not always fair. Victories were not always complete, but survival was constant. Humans adapted, learned, and pressed forward, often when the odds seemed impossible. "I have seen many wars," Ariel whispered to himself. "I have seen empires rise and fall, races destroyed by their own pride. But humans fight differently. They survive differently. They think differently." This thought filled him with a mixture of awe and unease. The conclave began to create new protocols. No ship was to approach human systems without extreme caution. No fleet was to attempt scanning a human warship. The record was clear. Probes were lost, systems were rewritten, and alien fleets had been humiliated without a single human knowing. It became a rule, written not only in words but in memory. Human warships are not to be studied directly. Even for the wisest, most disciplined minds of the galaxy, the lesson was simple. Some puzzles were not meant to be solved by force. Some enemies were not best defeated by fire or steel. Sometimes survival itself, ingenuity, and the will to continue were enough to protect a young race against all who might challenge them. And yet Ariel could not help but wonder. He imagined human fleets moving silently across the void, their ships carrying history and memory, echoing their past in ways no alien could fully comprehend. He thought of the young captain on the bridge of a destroyer, looking out at the stars with only duty in his heart, unaware of the fear his presence inspired. Was it intentional? Did the humans know the power they carried inside their ships? Ariel did not know. Perhaps one day he would learn. Perhaps not. What mattered was clear. The galaxy had learned its lesson. Humans were not the largest, not the oldest, not the fastest, but they were clever, resilient, and fearless in ways that no other race could fully measure. To challenge them carelessly was to risk not only ships, but minds, strategies, and memories. And so the galaxy adapted. Years passed. Human colonies spread farther, but encounters with other races were rare. The wisdom of the Conclave and the stories of the Valkyr kept explorers cautious. No ship approached human space without careful thought. No fleet attempted to pierce the mystery of a human destroyer. The humans, unaware, continued their journey. They explored, they defended, they built, and they survived. Their legacy was not written in fear nor in conquest, but in quiet persistence and ingenuity. The galaxy remembered them not as the strongest, but as the cleverest. Not as conquerors, but as survivors. Not as a threat to destroy, but as a mirror in which others might see themselves and perhaps lose the comfort of certainty. And in the halls of the Conclave, among the oldest and wisest, there was a silent agreement. The humans' power was subtle, dangerous, and undeniable. They did not need to fight aggressively to be feared. They needed only to exist, to sail their ghost ships across the stars, carrying history, thought, and memory. And for this reason, no alien, however wise, would dare scan a human warship again. Ariel, standing one last time before the great window of the conclave chamber, looked out at the stars. He felt something rare and profound, admiration. Humans were young, yes, and still inexperienced in many ways. Yet they had accomplished something almost impossible. They had made their minds, memories, and spirit a shield. They had turned curiosity into caution, observation into fear, and study into respect. The galaxy had learned to respect them, and perhaps in time, humans would show the conclave and the rest of the stars even more. For now, though, they remained a mystery, one that even the wisest would not dare confront. The galaxy could only watch, and in the watching, it remembered. The wisest aliens will not dare scan human warships, for what they see is not only technology, but the heart of humanity itself.